How do you handle the latest bout of injuries around the NFL training camps? What surprising Saints receiver is somebody that you need to keep in mind for your fantasy drafts this weekend and beyond? And how bullish or bearish are you on a certain NFC North rookie wide receiver? Plus, we have the three-time FFPC Main Event League Champion and 2025 FFPC Pros versus Joe's drafter, Rob Tomasino, hanging out with us tonight. We've got a great show for you. Ferrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than neither lesser.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob, and greetings to all of you Ferrelliacs and Balkaholics. This is the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented to you by myffpc.com. I am your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. You can connect with me on X at Eric Balkman. That's EricBalkman. Of course, you can connect with the show at HSFF and of course, check out Ferrell's Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. Once again, that is KFFSC.com. Coming up on tonight's show, we've got a great bit of goodness to get to. I guess, I don't know, goodness is maybe not the right way to say it because we got some injuries to get to, some good, some bad. And of course, how you react to that in your FFPC drafts, whether it be the Big Gorilla, the main event, so on and so forth. We're going to give you our insight on what we would do if we were you tonight. And you can feel free to utilize that advice or ignore it at your own peril. You could post on our Facebook page at facebook.com/HSFF or email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, send them in now. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, X posts, and emails coming up in the fantasy feedback segment later on in the show. Thanks to our audio engineer and my best friend, Bryce, and of course, our producer and mutual friend, Rob. Ladies and gentlemen, the FFPC main event early draft slot deadline is just hours away. Midnight Pacific time is the last chance that you will get to prep for your FFPC main event squads and main event drafts well over a month before many of your competitors are doing it. How do you do that? Here's what you do. Go to myffpc.com. Make sure you are registered and everything is squared away with all your FFPC main event teams by midnight Pacific time on Sunday night. If that happens, you will have your draft slot that you'll be drafting later on this month. Not this month, later on in September, either live at Paris Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas or from the comfort of your own home. You're going to find out what slot you have, and you can start game planning, prepping, doing whatever you want to do to make sure you are dialed in for getting the most out of that draft slot. You're going to have it well ahead of time if you have your team squared away by midnight Pacific time on Sunday night. So check that out. It's a $1 million grand prize, $6 million plus prize pool. It is our flagship event for the FFPC. That early draft slot deadline, once again, midnight Pacific time on Sunday. The FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament is going strong. We got drafts yet tonight going on in that. Check that out at myffpc.com. A $1 million grand prize. The 7 Bananas promo is live. If you want to win a free jungle safari for 4, keep entering that FFPC Big Gorilla and you'll increase your chances for that. $50 discount on every third team that you get in that. So check that out at myffpc.com. If you're still in best ball season, hey, that's cool too. We like to reward that type of behavior. MyFFPC.com is your home for not 1 but 2 best ball tournaments. The FFPC Classic Best Ball Tournament, $125 to enter, a $300,000 grand prize, and a $100,000 runner-up prize as well. If you want to play in the Superflex version of that, you still get to compete for a $100,000 grand prize, but that's only $35 to enter. So check that out, myffpc.com. And of course, for those of you who have fallen in love with Dynasty Fantasy Football, we are the home for that as well. 15 plus years, 2,000 plus leagues, None have ever folded. So check that out at myffpc.com. Enter your dynasty startups this summer at myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which I have a massive announcement, something we've never done before on the FFPC YouTube channel, quite frankly, in the FFPC history. And I will announce that at the end of tonight's show. It's going to be very exciting. You don't want to miss it as far as what's going on next week. It's going to be awesome. What's going on right now? Leagues are filling up at KFFSC.com. The Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship is going hard, and I bring in the commissioner of the KFFSC right now, ladies and gentlemen. You follow him on the X and Instagram at jferrellelliott. My co-host with the most, Mr. Ferrell Elliott. Commissioner, good evening and welcome. Happy Friday night to you.
Balky, it is Friday night, and what a great week it's been for fantasy football. And here with the Pros versus Joes, and now joining you on Friday night, and our guest is coming in from the Pros versus Joes. And yeah, it's fantastic. A lot of good news for young players coming out of NFL training camps. The early start to this season. It's good stuff.
It is good stuff. I mean, I'm looking at right now, like, and we're going to talk about Rashid Shaheed in a little bit.
Okay.
But I want to just kind of go over some quick hitters with you at the top of the show. Number one, Elijah Arroyo apparently looks like a playmaker after 2 training camp practices, according to John Boyle, who covers the Seahawks for the team, Seahawks.com. Elijah Arroyo now seems to be the guy there over A.J. Barner with no Noah Fant. You bumping him up your tight end premium draft boards at all, Ferrell? Arroyo?
Actually, in the limited dynasty that I play, I made him a target and got him. I figured that if this team scouted him and drafted him, they had to see something. And I think even they're a little bit surprised about what they see. But they're regularly working out wide receivers, so they're trying to change the outlook of the way that team handles and moves the ball through the air. And so, yeah, but Arroyo's going to have a spot in it. And with his athleticism, there's a great deal of talk about the various places he could line up. A la Bowers from last year. Now, he's not going to be Bowers, but he might be a little better than anything we've seen from the Seattle tight end position in a while.
Next up is Jacksonville. Tank Bigsby apparently, John Shipley covers the Jaguars for SI.com, said if there was one running back on this team that stood out throughout the practice today, it was Tank Bigsby. And I think this is worth bringing up, Ferrell, because Tank Bigsby would normally shine when the helmets are on, the pads are on, and it's full, as close as you can get to full tackle practice. Mm-hmm. It was one of those things where it was helmets and shorts. That was it today. And Bigsby stood out. I think that's good news if you have Bigsby or if you're looking at drafting him over ETN, over Bichelle Tootin, over LaQuint Allen. This is a very ambiguous backfield, and Bigsby, I think, took a step forward here.
We've had a hard time being right about the Jacksonville backfield and the Jacksonville team over the years. And so this is not something that I am looking to do. And I don't think he's going to drop much in the draft because of this conversation. So this is a player that I will be personally avoiding and will somewhat underscore my lack of meaningful commentary about it.
The news was not all good today. Darnell Mooney was the bad. We'll get into the bad here. Zach Klein, who covers the Falcons for WSB, reports that Mooney has a shoulder injury, suffered a shoulder injury today, and, quote, will miss most of training camp. Now, we don't know if this is the same shoulder that he hurt last season. It's not like the Falcons have another guy ready to step up into that number 2 role. They have Kadero Hodge. They have Ray McLeod. And then they inked DJ Chark to a contract later today. Hopefully Mooney recovers. I feel like I have to move him down my boards a little bit, even though I really like this player, Ferrell. When you look at that Atlanta passing game, are you bumping up Pitts at all? Is there somebody that you look at late? How are you drafting Darnell Mooney now that we know he's probably going to be missing most of training camp over the next 4 or 5, even 6 weeks?
I was trying to warm up to him during the Pros versus Joes. The more I looked at him, the more I was beginning to do that. But it's he's the type of player, body, physique, and skill set that doesn't respond well to shoulder or joint injuries. They're just basically things that he has to do. I like I don't like any player to be injured, but if you're in fantasy ball, if you want a guy that struggles with injuries, you want a bigger player that can still physical his way to make certain catches, to make the proverbial 50-50 catch. Mooney's not going to make any of them, and if he's hurting, he's going to make less than them. So I don't know. He's a run after catch guy for me too. He should be elusive. He runs sometimes like a running back. All those things come to play and make you somewhat skittish about him to repeat some of the success he's had. Put that in the fact that he is still a Falcon, and you continue to be further discouraged about his opportunities.
I think I am leaning towards, and everything you said, I respect, obviously, but I think I'm leaning towards buying the dip on Mooney. This is a player that I was already in on. He was wide receiver 51 at the 10:03, according to fantasymojo.com. That's Darren Armani's website. He is the godfather of the Pros versus Joes Challenge. If you are playing in the FFPC, highly recommend you get a subscription to fantasymojo.com. And so I would imagine with this shoulder news, he's probably going to be dropping in the 12th or 13th round. I might be able to get him as wide receiver 6. And if that's the case, whether it's in best ball, whether it's in managed leagues or whatever, I'm still on board for that. It's a long season. He is not a rookie. He is not a second-year guy that he needs all these reps. I don't think that there's an obvious guy ready to step in for him. I am not a DJ Chark believer. So I think when Mooney slips to that 12th round, which he inevitably will do, maybe even later than that, I'll be scooping him up.
That's fair enough, as long as it's after Pittman. Wow, it only took us 12 minutes to get Pittman into the conversation. And I agree with everything you're saying. However, if his injury is a nagging one throughout the year, the kind of athlete he is, what he does to be successful could be put in peril.
The other thing I want to bring up here, we got Rob Tomasino coming up, the FFPC
That's
Pros
a good guess.
Drafter. Dallas Morning News' Calvin Watkins was asked Brian Schottenheimer, the head coach of Dallas, about the running back situation. And Schottenheimer hinted that a rotation could be the way that Dallas goes once the season starts. Watkins listed Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders as the two guys who are competing for the starting running back job in Dallas. Did not mention Jaden Blue, and obviously we saw the report last week from a former Cowboys coach saying that that he's been lazy and they've had to force him and kind of kick him into gear, kick him in the rear to get him in gear. Basically that's what it was. So here's the thing: Javonte Williams has not been good in several years. Miles Sanders has not been good in several years. I am still we got the KFFSC Dynasty rookie drafts going on right now. I've gotten Jaden Blue in at least 2 of them already. I'm still on board with that. As far as redraft goes, again, this is a player I'm buying the dip on. I feel like if you can get him as running back 5, that could really pay off. And with the news coming out of Dallas not being glowing, I feel like this is the opportunity to buy Jaden Blue now before he starts turning heads in the preseason.
I agree with that. Players that come in and get labeled publicly lazy usually have a chip on their shoulder. Maybe it's coaches that are trying to light the proverbial fuse in this player. I've seen coaches talk to players about being lazy, thinking lazy, having a hard time focus, line up wrong. There's nothing more entertaining for me than you go to a practice and you got the guys lined up and some coach runs screaming onto the field at one player that he's lined up in the wrong place. The poor player's trying to figure out all these aspects of the play call, and it can be a difficult process for him. But yeah, let's just give the young player a break and see how he shakes off the lazy label.
I want to get into New Orleans here. Rashid Shaheed, according to Aaron Summers, who covers the team, says that he put on weight this offseason to hold up better against contact. Rashid Shaheed weighs in at 190 pounds at the start of this season. At this time last year, he weighed 180. This is his 4th year in the league. He's coming back from a torn meniscus that he suffered last season. Apparently looked completely recovered from this torn meniscus, not now, but all the way back in May, per Matthew Paris, who covers the Saints. He averaged 16.6 yards per reception in his career. Before he got hurt last year, he was on pace for just under 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. John Daigle from Established Run, another Pros vs. Joes drafter that we saw this past week, Ferrell, posted that in the games when Olave and Shaheed were healthy last year, I think it was like 4 or 5 games, Shaheed actually out-targeted Chris Olave by like 8 or 9 targets. Now, I know target, it's like the T word on this show. We don't like to talk about it. We like to talk about receptions. But when you talk about where these players are going in the FFPC Big Gorilla over the last 3 days, knowing what I just told you, what John Daigle said about Olave being out-targeted by Rashid Shaheed, you have to pay 7th-round draft capital, sometimes 6th-round draft capital for Chris Olave. Rashid Shaheed is only going to set you back 12th-round draft capital. I'm becoming a fan of Shaheed, my friend.
I think you've been a fan for a while, Bulky. You know, we were back in the day, we were talking about this player before really anyone else was that I can recall, and we've always liked him. I think that he is tied to the quarterback, Tyler Shuck. As I recall, Shuck has great downfield accuracy, and that's where, especially in best ball, you'll get your spikes from Shaheed. Now, why is he targeted a lot? He's targeted a lot because he gets open, and you know, he is open, and he's had quarterback. You know, say what you will about Mr. Carr. There's a quarterback that could run through the progressions. Now he gets at the other end of the spectrum with a rookie quarterback. A rookie quarterback can lean on a player that gets open and has speed. So, and also Shaheed could look a lot different in what they ask him to do with this quarterback. So I'm with you, Balky. This is a player that that I will be targeting in the drafts, and that I'm thrilled to have on my dynasty teams, and that I barely paid for. I think got him off the waivers in most cases, and I'm beginning to notice that a lot of people are going to catch up to this player because I'm getting a lot of trade offers. And Scott Hoyt says, who is going to get him the ball? Well, it'll be rookie quarterback, or it'll be Jake Hayner. It'll be one of those guys. And they won't win many, many games for New Orleans, but they will successfully present this player with enough opportunities to catch 70, 75 balls. If he continues to separate and get the yardage you're talking about, a few touchdowns, that'll be quite an acquisition for the 12th round.
The level of expectation you have for a player in the 12th round goes increasingly down. While Scott Hoyt brings up a good point, I think that's a question I would ask for somebody like Olave, who's going in the 6th round. Who's going to get him the ball?
Yeah, that's a good point. And Scott, you know, it's not a bit of a mess. It's not. You've got good young players who are competing for the position. It was a bit of a mess last year when you had an injured veteran that can't shake it off. Now, the only time that the New Orleans quarterback room it begins to look like a mess to me is when they ask the tight end to start playing quarterback.
They have young players competing for the job there. How good they are, I don't know. We'll find out. But I think they're good enough to get the ball to Olave and Shaheed. And obviously Shaheed, if you miss on him in the 12th round, doesn't really hurt your draft at all. Let's go to Washington, Ferrell. Chris Russell, who covers the Commanders, said he is not going to be surprised if Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt earns running back 1 snaps at some point this season. There's been a lot of praise for Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt in training camp so far. He had a 4.45 40-yard dash at the scouting combine, 8.29 RAS score, which isn't elite, but whatever the next step down from elite, that's what he's at. Should have been an early day pick. According to a lot of scouts, he ends up being a late day 3 pick, an early day 3 pick. According to a lot of scouts, he ends up going late day 3. And quite frankly, you have Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson there. Not a high bar to jump over. And when you consider that Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and I do believe that this guy is going to continue to rise up the Big Gorilla draft boards, 1608 running back 66. I'm definitely in on that. I wish I had more shares of Merritt just to see what happens here, because I think this Washington running game is more ambiguous than a lot of people think.
I do too. And why didn't he get drafted? He's 24 years old. Why didn't he get drafted better? Well, he only played 1 game his senior season, but he went down to the East-West Shrine game in Texas and impressed everyone. And that's where he began. He was the most valuable player in that game, and people were pleased with him in practice, and then he showed it in the All-Star game. And he was a good teammate, a great kid to be around. 3 schools during his college time. What did he not show in college? He rarely caught the ball, which makes me think that Eckler will handle third down and maybe some more. And, you take a guy like Eckler and you start saying he's going to handle a lot of the third down, well, then Eckler becomes something that you can consider. There becomes a 5-6 catch player per game. You look at what's going on with Robinson. He's in the last year of his contract. And I think they will continue to work out running backs. They will look at guys on the street. They'll look at guys that will be waived and try to piece it together. But I think they were very pleased to get this player. They like what they've seen of him. And he goes by Bill. His nickname is Bill. So we can drop all the other hyphenated names and just call him Bill. But I like him. And, if I'm a young running back trying to get a start in this league and trying to figure it out, you can't be in a locker room with anybody better than Austin Eckler.
Given that he plays in our nation's capital, the nickname of Bill is very fitting for Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. And let me tell you, as a fantasy player, I am putting my John Hancock on that bill and getting him on my team 100%. One last thing I want to bring up before we get to our guest tonight, Rob Tomasino, the 3-time FFPC Main Event champion, Pros versus Joe's drafter. I feel like we just should touch on this Bears thing. We're going to touch on it with Rob as well. Ben Johnson said that Luther Burden is day-to-day after he had this hamstring issue in May, and he's still day-to-day, Ferrell. This is like 2 months later that he's still dealing with. Courtney Cronin's reporting this from ESPN. Devin Duvernay, Olamide Zacchaeus have been taking first-team reps in Burden's stead. I'm excited for Burden, number one, because of the talent, number two, because of the offense, number three, because his perceived role in the offense. And yet, if this rookie can't get on the field and he's already getting off to a slow start, Ferrell, I do have a little bit of pause before I'm drafting him. In the Big Gorilla right now, people have to make this decision. When it rolls up to him in the 11th round, are you taking a player like Luther Burden as the wide receiver 55 off the board? Or would you take a guy like Shaheed? Would you take a guy like Christian Kirk or Hollywood Brown, all three receivers going after Luther Burden right now? How do you feel about Burden knowing that this guy is not healthy right now, trying to get back on the field?
Let's see if he ever does. And by the time we get to Paris, if he hadn't been on the field, let's skip it. Let's let someone else take that risk. Of course, he'll drop beyond that 55 probably, and we can then reconsider what we want to do with him. But we talked about a lot of promising receivers last year at this time. I was high on Malachi Corley. Malachi Corley was at least healthy, but he didn't play that way, particularly on the field when given the opportunity to play. So it's a problem to me, and no matter what your scouting profile is, if you're showing up hurt and staying hurt, I think we only get 20 draft picks. Let's use them on guys that are healthy.
I would agree with you 100% on that. I am at least 80 to 90% of the time taking Shaheed right now over Burden. Will that pay off for me? I hope so, but I also understand that Burden is not exactly the type of player I want to 100% ignore either. But yeah, the sooner he gets on field, the better. The sooner we get to tonight's interview, the better, quite frankly. We have let this guy nosh on crudité, shrimp cocktail way too long. So let's get him on right now.
I always wondered what that stuff was.
He was hanging out with us on Monday night during our Pros versus Joe's draft coverage. He had the 11 spot in Monday night's draft in Pros versus Joe's 2. We're here tonight to talk to him about that draft, as well as his other thoughts on drafting season this year. And Ferrell, we will not let him get away tonight without giving us his worst fantasy bad beat story, which we're going to get to before we say goodnight to him. Please welcome in back to the show the guy who has won 3 FFPC Main Event League titles already in his career, looking for a $1 million grand prize this year, Mr. Rob Tomasino. Rob, good evening, man. How are you?
Eric, Ferrell, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. You guys iced me out a little bit, but I'm good to go now.
Yeah, I just once we get going, man, it's tough to stop. It's tough to stop. I don't think we got a chance to talk to you about this on Monday, but when you're not playing all these FFPC leagues and winning all these leagues, what are you doing for a living?
So I'm born and raised in Long Island, Smithtown, about halfway between Manhattan and the Hamptons. Went to college, Gettysburg College, shout out Bullets, Pennsylvania. I work for and a distributor of electronic components and displays, Edge Electronics out in Bohemia. It's a woman-owned business. She's a terrific woman. I always like to give a shout out to her. And I also, last year, my son finished up his high school football career, and I realized out in Long Island that they needed officials. So I put my name on a list to officiate some football games, and I started that last year, and I've been doing middle school games, which I've really enjoyed, and it's a fun thing to do. So
That's great.
Football officiating. So can you tell us, like, are you on the field? Are you a referee? Are you a line judge? What are you doing for that, Rob?
Yeah, so when they train you to do pretty much everything, and when you're on the varsity level, you get assigned a specific position like line judge, field judge, referee. In the middle school, typically they have 3 officials, and you end up being either the referee or one of the line judges or side judges. So there's one guy on each side of the field on the line of scrimmage, and then the ref roams behind the play. So I've had an opportunity to do all 3, and it's fun. It's interesting, and it's a good age because the kids are still respectful and nice, and the coaches aren't ridiculously abusive or mean. So I enjoy it. And I'm not the type of person that's going to take a lot of abuse, so I kind of want to stay out of the varsity level.
There you go.
Yeah, I get it.
I have a rather rotund friend who officiates youth football, and I got a kick out of him because he told the kids, he said, "Do not start your celebration before I can get down the field to signal touchdown." And I saw that actually play out on Saturday.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, that's all. I have a buddy, actually one of my bosses at the radio station. He is a high school referee, and I don't think he did it the last couple of years, but for probably like 10 or 15 years, every Friday night he was out there refereeing high school football, the varsity level. And I'm like, dude, you're a glutton for punishment, because that, to me, you don't get paid enough to be that stressed out, and then you got to deal with fans and everything. So God bless you, Rob. And I know you said the coaches and the players, they're at the right level for you right now. And,
exactly.
I'm sure it's enjoyable, but I think about that. I used to be a Little League, and then I moved up to Babe Ruth umpire.
No.
Calling balls and strikes and on bases. Never again. No thanks. I'm out of that game, man. I'm out.
Yeah, baseball is too boring. Being an umpire is too boring.
You know
what's not boring is drafting in the pros versus Joe's.
Yes.
96 hours removed. How do you think you did?
Oh, boy. So it's funny because I told you guys this was my first draft. I knew it would be a learning experience. The good thing was
first best ball draft. First best ball.
Yeah, first best ball draft.
No way.
The good thing, it was a free learning experience. But, I asked my nephew who does a bunch of best ball drafts. I asked Joe, the bagel guy who I see every morning on my way to work. He does a lot of best ball drafts. And they all kind of told me the same things. And unfortunately, I didn't execute a lot of what they were telling me. When I look at my draft, if this was an FFPC main event team, I would love it. But it's not. And, we talked about things like stacking, making sure you don't get stuck on any bye weeks, and taking some risks. And then the other thing I struggled with, believe it or not, was some of the logistics. I didn't anticipate how quickly picks would come off the board. Like in a main event draft, you typically have a good minute or minute and a half or 2 between picks. And all of a sudden, after like round 8, the picks just started coming off the board 10, 15 seconds at a time. So what I probably should have done is kind of focused more on my own picks and less on who was coming off the board.
And drink more coffee.
Yeah. So I struggled a little bit with that. But that being said, I'm the eternal optimist. When I look at my team, I have some players that are going to put up a lot of points. When you have guys like Nakua and A-Chain, those 2 guys could put up 65, 70 points on a given week combined just for those 2 players. So, the stacking is going to be a problem. I know that I don't have much of a stack. I do have Stafford, Nakua, Russell Wilson, Wan'Dale Robinson, which I'm not even sure if that's considered a stack. But it was a good learning experience. And listen, we're going to fight to the end and see what happens. I think where I went kind of in the wrong direction was in round 8. If you look in round 8, after I made what I thought was 7 solid picks, I was kind of staring at Mahomes and saying, I feel like he's not the right pick, but I just couldn't wrap my arms at the time around Matthew Golden or Ibukwa, but I think I should have, because if I would have gotten one of those two guys there, I could have gotten Bo Nix on the turn, and that would have probably been a better fit for my team having Cortland Sutton.
So we have Rob's draft up here. You can see it. He is from the 11 spot there. It's the one that starts off with Nakua, Achane, and Cook here. And you say that you weren't like, you would love this if this was a main event. I don't know, man. Like, I guess I feel like you don't have maybe some of the multipliers, the bonuses, the stacks and everything. But I feel like and I can't remember what we said about this team on Monday, but I think like from a team construction standpoint, I mean, I think you're good at quarterback. You're definitely good at tight end, like what you don't have in the elite tight ends, you have in numbers. You drafted 4 of them. I think the running back core is deep. I thought you got some solid receivers here. I mean, I do think that, this isn't the most spectacular team in the world, but I definitely think it's competitive. I feel like you're selling yourself a little bit short on this one. I like this squad, Rob.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That being said, you got to be 1 out of 12. So
right. Yes.
That's where it becomes a struggle. And I'm not interested in the Sox, by the way. So, listen, anything could happen. If my team stays completely healthy and I get through weeks 12 and 14, which are going to be tricky for me on the buys, you never know. Maybe I can get out to a lead or something.
You mentioned the Egbuka pick, and he went to Davis Maddock here at the 9-12, as it were. And obviously with the Chris Godwin news that we found out that this guy had a second ankle procedure, and it's allegedly just a cleanup, but we don't know how that's going to go. And it certainly looks like Chris Godwin is not off to the start of the training camp and the preseason that he wanted and that the Buccaneers wanted. So we've seen Egbuka go up. We saw Steven Yergalos, who drafted in Pros versus Joe Sunday night. He just got done with the main event tonight. He said Egbuka went in the 7th round there. Is there a sweet spot, Rob, right now for you with Egbuka? Where should he be going in FFPC drafts, knowing what we know about Godwin?
That's a tough one, only because Egbuka's a baller. I mean, he's an Ohio State guy. He's got the tools. If you look at Godwin last year, he was really going off until he got hurt. Like Ferrell mentioned, I'm not big on drafting guys that are injured ever. Like, guys got a hamstring, I put a line through them because hamstrings don't go away mentally or physically during a season a lot of times.
Good point.
But, here's the thing. You still have Evans, right? You still have Bucky. You still have Otten. You still have Godwin when he comes back. McMillan was good for them last year. So I think the key news here is that he's going to get opportunity, right? So he has an opportunity to ball. Mayfield came out today and said amazing things about him. Said he already knows most of he could be plugged into any of the positions. And listen, the Buccaneers are going to be a real powerhouse on offense this year. They got a lot of talent. They're going to put up points. That being said, you got to move them up, maybe slightly ahead of your Christian Kirks and maybe even your the guy on Golden, in that range, like slightly above that range. So maybe 7th round, 8th round in that range, but definitely an upside guy now, especially if Godwin misses 3-4 weeks.
Speaking of rookies, and Ferrell, I'm going to handle this next question. I'll let you talk about the favorite and least favorite picks for Rob here. But noticing your team here from the 11 spot, no rookies drafted on this squad. And I don't know, maybe that had something to do with Davis Maddock at the 12 spot taking whatever it was, 6 of them or what have you. But no rookies. I'm just kind of curious. Do you think rookies tend to be overrated that at this point of year that we should be looking more towards the veterans? Or was this just, hey, I happen to just like a veteran better than every rookie on this board when it came time for me to pick?
So I'm going to chalk this up to like mental stubbornness on my part. Like for me, when I see like the Mahomes is the typical example. I saw Golden play at Texas. He was really good. A lot of these other guys I've seen sporadically in college, and I feel like it's a mistake, but I tend to lean towards what I know over what I don't know. And if you look at my team, I didn't draft any rookies, and that wasn't on purpose. My goal was to try to take some risks. But I do have a bunch of younger guys on my team.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few second-year guys. I took some risks at the end, and we'll see what happens. I mean, when I looked at the draft, I could have – my choices when it came to rookies in kind of that sweet spot, I don't like to go off of the board, so to speak. So when I have that, draft dominator up there and there's 20 or 30 guys on that list, I'm not going off that list because they know a lot more and they've done all the analytics. And I like to pick who I want, but I also don't like to reach, right? Yeah. So if you look at when I took James Cook, I could have took Hampton, right? But I prefer James Cook over Hampton. Mm-hmm. The Golden over Mahomes, that's something I probably should have done. I should have taken the risk there. And then Loveland, he was available when I took Jonnu Smith. But two things about Jonnu Smith. One is I'm a Steeler fan, so I'm excited about him. And I don't typically draft like that. But Jonnu Smith carried my team in the second half of last year on the Dolphins when he was getting a bunch of, 8-9 catches a game. So I remembered that, and I took him. So I feel comfortable with those decisions. I just wish I would have taken Golden, though, and Knicks.
Just to follow up on that, on this, Rob, why do you like James Cook better than Omari and Hampton this season?
So I don't think the contract situation is an issue at all. James Cook, I thought, was great last year. Omari and Hampton, listen, he's going to get a lot of carries. He's going to, especially with Najee with the eye injury from the fireworks. But I don't know. I'm not sure he's going to catch passes, Hampton. I'm not sure. I think he's going to be kind of like a mostly a running and a touchdown guy. And I think Cook has higher upside potential.
Mm. When I look at your team, I see some upside. I'll tell you what I realized about your team.
Okay.
When I looked at it and realized there were no rookies over there, is you're not a dynasty player. Am I correct about this?
Nope.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Well, this guy doesn't play dynasty because that's what feeds all the draft movement of the rookies is our dynasty players. So you came to this format and looking at it. Tell me somebody. This is a forerunner to a question we often ask at the end of the show. But who wish you didn't have? Because you don't have any free agency, so you're stuck with it. Yeah.
Right.
Even if you don't like them, you got to learn to love them. So, but as it rates today, who do you not like, and who are you very excited about having? Especially maybe some of the guys towards the end of the draft.
So, Freiermuth was kind of like that was like a last second thing when I was struggling against the clock, honestly. So I don't love that pick, and especially that I have Smith too, but hopefully one of them will emerge. And I don't like the Mahomes pick. I've gone through that. The guys I do like is I love Marvin Harrison in the 4th round. I think he's a huge value. You can never call your first and second picks your favorite picks because everybody's first and second picks are usually your favorite pick. But I do love A-Chain and Nakua. And then Cortland Sutton in the 6th round, I think, is a great value. And then late when I chose Dowdle and Corum, especially Dowdle, I think he has a chance to emerge. Dowdle, he was good with the Cowboys last year. Carolina is a wild card to be a better team this year. So if I get an injury there, you never know.
So you're in love with a lot of guys over here. You're loving this team.
No.
4 days later, and we're still in love. I'm telling you.
Was Mahomes, Rob, the least favorite one for you?
Without a question.
Okay.
Without question.
Yeah.
You just couldn't resist, though.
I wanted to wait another round, and then when I took him, I immediately popped in my head that I wasn't going to be able to get any of the receivers that I wanted with him.
And the 15 seconds was working on you too.
Yeah.
There's no excuses though. Listen, I should have been better prepared. I should have understood that the picks go off the board like that. So I hold myself accountable.
I don't think there's any excuses for the players that were listed in question 6. Balky, can you think of any? You want to You want to go ahead and pop this one out there?
Well, I'll just say this: like, I don't. There is a couple of Kentucky leagues I'm in right now where Quinshon Judkins is still on the board, and I haven't really found like the sweet spot of when's the right time to take him. So I'm battling with that, right? But even if I make up my mind, Rob, that I'm not taking Quinshon Judkins, I feel like, okay, if I'm out on Judkins, I should be in on Ford. I should be in on Sampson, one or the other, maybe both. I don't know. But how are you, and I should say, how should FFPC players attack this Browns backfield, knowing that Judkins was supposed to be the guy, and now it looks like he may not be the guy? For sure, he's not the guy right now. And then when the season starts, I mean, who knows?
My big thing with running backs is I hate to take running backs on teams that I know are going to be bad unless they catch passes. So I would avoid the whole trio. And the other thing about Sampson is Jerome Ford, when given opportunity, has been good, right? I mean, it's strange. You watch the guy, and he doesn't look like much, and then he's running 50 yards down the field. So I think he definitely gets the first shot. Judkins, I don't think we're going to see him at all. I think, they're talking his story is Kareem Hunt-like. And, the Browns aren't even signing him to a contract yet until this whole thing plays out. So, from an opportunity standpoint, Sampson might get an opportunity, but I just don't think it's going to pan out to a lot of scores or a lot of fantasy points, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Let me ask you something.
Go ahead.
Balky teased it earlier tonight. Dallas backfield seems awfully confusing. This is the fourth or fifth life of Miles Sanders down there. There had been a time when I thought Miles Sanders had number one running back play potential in the league. I'm curious about, when we talk about Dallas, we talk about Dak having his wonderful odd year correction. CeeDee Lamb is a first-round draft pick. People like the tight end, even though he was banged up and didn't find the end zone last year. And now the arrival of Pickens. But how's all that going to come together in a passing game without a what I consider an NFL quality running game? And is Miles Sanders going to help that?
So I feel like Miles Sanders is a one-year wonder. He had that 1 year in Philly where he was solid.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't really catch any passes either that year. He scored a lot of touchdowns. He ran the ball well. But you guys touched on it earlier when you talked about Jaden Blue. When you watched Texas last year, Jaden Blue was, when he touched the ball, which wasn't often, he was a game breaker. And I would rather take a chance on a guy like Jaden Blue, even if you have to wait a little bit, because I think he ultimately gets on the field, where Miles Sanders might get some opportunity early, but, it's kind of like that 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And I don't think Dallas is going to give him, 17, 18 carries a game. Javonte Williams is going to get touches. So I don't like Miles Sanders in any way. I would stay completely away from him.
Yeah, it's funny as I just had to make a draft pick in one of the Kentucky rookie drafts, and while we were talking right now, because I didn't want to hold up the draft, and I considered Miles Sanders. This was a rookie free agent draft, 5th round, and like, okay, I can see his path where it could be successful this year. I ended up taking Keaton Mitchell instead, just because if Henry were to go down, I think Mitchell's going to play a big role in that backfield. So even with all those things considered, I still couldn't pull the trigger on Sanders, understanding that maybe his pathway to the starting gig is quite a bit shorter than Keaton Mitchell's is in Baltimore. I'm with you. I probably even in a 20-round draft, like it's difficult for me to say, hey, yeah, this is a good investment on a 14th or 15th, 16th round, whatever pick would be.
And some guys just, even though they're not old, they feel old. He feels old to me.
It does feel old. Yeah.
He's lost a step. He didn't last year. Like I don't even know if there were 3 or 4 good highlights of him last year in Carolina. So
he injuries have sapped some of his athleticism, and he just did turn 28 too. So it's not like, I mean, in real life, he is not all that young anymore. He's getting up there.
Right.
And I think it's funny because I don't think anybody's drafting Miles Sanders because of who he is. they're drafting him because of this ambiguous backfield in Dallas and just trying to get a share of that. Now, whether that pays off or not, I don't know. But I'm with you. I'm probably more often than not drafting Sanders than drafting him. Colston Loveland, he has this shoulder injury. Apparently he's recovered. The Bears are saying all the right things. Colston Loveland saying all the right things. Right now in the FFPC Big Gorilla, Rob, if I look up his Loveland, that is, if I look up Loveland's ADP, tight end 14 at the end of the 9th round. Does that seem right to you? Is that a spot where you would look at him, drafting him, or would you let him go even further, or maybe let somebody else take him?
So this is a tough one because he's coming off surgery for an AC joint, I believe, which that's a painful injury. They drafted him 10th overall, so they might have kid gloves on him a little bit. But I think he has tremendous upside if he gets on the field right away. That's a big if. But that could end up being a pretty dynamic offense too if things click. And obviously you have Ben Johnson. You have to look at how the Lions used their tight end, which was very effectively also. But again, I'm not a guy that overdrafts guys that are injured. So to me, it would depend on what other tight ends was sitting there in the same range that he was sitting there. And if there's one that I like that's not injured, I'd probably lean in that direction. Maybe in a best ball draft, he might be worth it because maybe 4 or 5 weeks into the season, he has higher upside than the other guys that you would draft ahead of him.
It's interesting to think about that. Ferrell, have we talked about Loveland at all? Where do you fall in on this?
I liked him better earlier. Since he's shown up, I like him a little less. Perhaps I bought in to the hype. The physicality side of it, I'm looking for a tight end. I'm looking for a young tight end that can break through of the 50 to 65 catch log jam of tight ends that are currently in the league, like we're just talking about Freiermuth, like I believe Goddard is. And I think Goddard is on the low end of that. So I really like some of the younger players coming in, like our Arroyo out of Seattle that we talked about through the week. And I'm willing to give this guy the benefit of the doubt and look at him in preseason and see if he's healed. Because I'm on a search for that second tight end on a roster. It's going to be a young guy that can outperform some of the standard middle of the road production tight ends in the NFL.
I
thought it was Ferguson last year, Balky.
Yeah, it was.
Because of injury situation, I ended up being wrong. And I don't think it was it was just injuries, I think, about him.
I want to, Rob, get to a couple of emails that we had from some viewers. Sure. Number one is from Rich in McGregor, North Dakota. And he wrote in, should Deebo Samuel be a priority target for as long as Terry McLaurin is holding out? Thank you so much for the email, Rich. We appreciate it. Rob, this is a guy that you drafted in your pros versus Joes. And I don't know, I mean, was he more attractive to you because McLaurin had not actually, I don't think we knew if he had reported yet at that point on Monday night, but does he become more attractive for your drafts now that we know McLaurin's not there and Samuel's building up this extra chemistry, ostensibly as the number one receiver there with Jaden Daniels?
Well, definitely that he didn't report, and it felt like he wasn't going to report, right? Certain guys, when you hear the news, you feel like they're gonna show up. He feels like he's not going to show up. And listen, Deebo, fantasy-wise, he's always been inconsistent, but he's really talented. Washington had some trouble with fumbles last year in the playoffs with Eckler and things like that. So maybe they use him out of the backfield a little bit. But listen, if McLaurin doesn't show up, clearly his upside is a lot higher than if he does show up. And he's a great player, so I like Samuel. I think he'll put up points this year too.
The other thing I want to bring up here from a second email for Rob tonight. This is from George in Brook Park, Ohio. He writes, any thoughts on Elijah Mitchell running as the second running back for Kansas City? Good luck this season. That is George in Brook Park, Ohio. Thank you for the email, George. Yeah, Elijah Mitchell behind Isaiah Pacheco right now. do we glean anything? I mean, there's a lot of people that were on Brashard Smith this year too, and obviously Kareem Hunt still hanging around. Chiefs running back situation, I feel like if you get it right, rightly or wrongly, that's going to set you up for fantasy success here. How are you handling it, or going to be handling it in your drafts this year, Rob?
That's a crowded backfield. For me, it's an avoid, but if I had to pick one, Pacheco 2 years ago was phenomenal. Then last year he looked like he was coming back from an injury the whole year, and every time he ran, he just didn't look like the same player. If you see him and he looks effective in the preseason and he looks like he's got his quickness back, then I would absolutely lean in his direction. Elijah Mitchell to me is more of like a game breaker. I don't think he's the type of guy that's going to get more than 5 or 6 carries in any game unless they really have major injuries. And I would think Hunt would be the next guy up if Pacheco has the number 1 spot. So I don't think I would go to Elijah Mitchell in almost any scenario. To me, he's a waiver wire pickup if somebody gets injured.
If somebody gets injured, here we are. Camps are just starting. Guys aren't really even in pads yet. And we're talking about injuries. Injuries are such a big, big part of this. One of the guys in the chat room made a commentary. Is like he was a 49er. 49ers are always hurt. We talk about on this show often that some of the real stars behind the scenes of the NFL are certain training rooms. They can get players ready to get back out and play. This Loveland kid, with his AC joint, that's a very, very tough injury for players. They gotta test it with contact. So we really don't know. And then, as you said, the mentality aspect of certain types of injuries can really change the way a player plays. And that's this guy's introduction to the NFL as he's coming off shoulder surgery. So, it's a lot to think about. And I think we're getting the gift that we're getting is we can quit talking about it and start looking at it. You can start watching the players, and you can go to your trusted sources that comment what they're doing. But that would be, if I was sending an email, that'd be what I want to talk about. Balky, you got any more emails?
It's all you, my friend.
No way. Then that means you have to tell us, because look, you don't play Dynasty. You stumbled along into this best ball, which would give me a thrill that you would win it. It would even give me a thrill if you won the Sox. So what we got a situation for you is you obviously shine in redrafts. So tell us, who do you love in redraft, and who can you not stand? Who can you not have on your team? And you've teased a couple of those so far, so you might have to dig deep to find a new name for us. Go ahead, Rob. Educate.
All right, so the guy that I think a lot of people like that I'm staying completely away from is Rashee Rice. Like Rashee Rice, to me, he's coming off a major injury. He's looking at a major suspension, and he's still getting drafted in the 6th round, things like that. That's crazy. I mean, he might not see the field for the first 6 to 8 weeks. And then when he comes back, he's coming off an injury, and he's got, Mahomes, who throws the ball to a bunch of different people, and they have good other receivers. So he's a no-go for me. And then Christian McCaffrey, he's the end of the 1st round, beginning of the 2nd round, and I recognize that there's always upside with him, but he's always injured, and he's always questionable, and you never know whether he's going to play. And I do this because I like to have my 3 or 4 main event teams, not too many, so that I know I have a bunch of guys that I want to root for. I want to get excited on Sunday, and I hate when I have to go through my teams and the same guys are always questionable, and it just leads to stress and aggravation. So I'm bypassing McCaffrey altogether, unless for some reason he fell into like the end of the 2nd or the beginning of the 3rd round, which he won't.
And I love that answer, because you said something there that is illustrative to me in my conversations that I've had today. You're going to play your 3 and 4 main event teams and really enjoy them.
Yep.
Steve G, who is in the chat room tonight, we say hello, and I had a wonderful conversation with him this afternoon. He probably signed up for 3 or 4 main event teams tonight. 3 or 4, and that's the way he enjoys it.
Yeah.
And we can both, and you can't get that out of, the guy that only plays golf 2 or 3 times a year. He doesn't really like golf, and the guy that plays 36 holes a day, he's hiding from his wife or something more serious, So in what we do here, it however you choose to participate, you're going to get something out of it, and that's fantastic. And you're going to love the football that comes into your home.
Definitely.
The way that you can consume it. And that's what I can't wait for is getting together with everyone at the Paris Hotel and Casino on our viewing party Thursday night. But, Balky, we got a Friday night viewing party or no? What's going on here?
That is up in the air.
Up in the air.
My personal opinion, and I don't want to hold the FFPC to anything, I believe it's going to happen.
Yes.
But nothing officially announced yet. We do have the Thursday night party for Cowboys Eagles. Friday night, we'll see. Stay tuned.
That's about as good a matchup as it gets.
Yeah.
Rob, you had me thinking about McCaffrey here, and I just want to point this out. And I've flip-flopped and gone back and forth on McCaffrey. I have him on a couple of teams. I've avoided him on some other teams. Adam Hahn also said if he had the 101, he would take McCaffrey at the 101 this year. Regarding him being 29 years old, regarding him being beat up the last couple of years, especially in 2024. There are 17 San Francisco 49ers games this year. 5 of them are slated right now to kick off at 1 p.m., which means the other 12 are slated for either primetime or late games, Sunday night games, Monday night games. That can be problematic with a running back like McCaffrey, who, again, if you do believe he's going to be beat up, well, then you have to take that into account, that you have to sort of dedicate an extra roster spot on your team each and every week to make sure that if McCaffrey can't go, you could put in Garendo, or if you don't have Garendo, that you have somebody that you can play. And that could kind of throw your whole lineup out of whack. So that's something to consider too. If you want to be bullish on McCaffrey, make sure you're prepped for that this year. Did you give us a player that you really like this year? I know you gave us a couple that you don't like in Bryson McCaffrey.
I love Marvin Harrison, but the other guy who I think is just going to ball out, and I think he's probably going to come close to leading the league in receptions, is JSN. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is just going to be a target monster. So I see him blowing up this year.
Rob, you are a long-time high-stakes fantasy football player dating back more than 2 decades.
Yep.
I want to give you the opportunity, if we go back to the old WCOF days, to talk about your worst fantasy football beat before you let you get out of here and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I probably told everybody who will listen to this story. So now you guys are going to hear it. 2004 WCOFF, the old rules where when you played within the league, you had to still win the playoff to get into the championship bracket. There was no automatic bid for the 1 and the 2 seed. So you had to have a good season, get into the Final Four, and then win. Different now, which the rules now are much better. And everybody out there who's a main event player, if you're true to yourself, when you legitimately have a chance to do well in the championship bracket. Sometimes you have a team and you're just saying, get me through. I want to win the championship. I want to get my $4 or $5 grand, and I'll just throw my team in there, and I know I'm not going to win. But there's a couple of times where you feel like, you know what, I got a shot. So 2004, I drafted a great team. I think my team was like 9-3. I go into the playoffs, and probably around week 9, I just randomly pick up Larry Johnson. I think at the time he was the 3rd back. I think they had Charles and Priest Holmes, and Charles had gotten hurt, or whoever the number 1 back was, and then Priest Holmes got hurt. And my great team turned into a team that I knew I had a great chance to go very deep into the championship bracket. I cruise in the first round. I get to the final. Thanksgiving Day I have Peyton Manning, Brandon Stokely in my lineup. Manning throws 6 touchdowns. He throws 3 to Stokely. I'm off to a great start. We get to Sunday. The other guy's team heats up a little bit, but I'm still in great shape going to the 4 o'clock games. I had Emmitt Smith, 3rd play of the game. Emmitt Smith hurts his toe and he's out for the game. So now I'm back in a jam. The game goes to Monday night. I'll never forget this. It's the Rams and the Packers. in Green Bay. I have Torrey Holt, who for the season had 94 catches, 1,372 yards, and 10 touchdowns.
Wow.
And the Packers are waxing the Rams. Going into the fourth quarter, I think they're up 14 or 17 points, like the perfect scenario. I need one catch for 8 yards from Torrey Holt to win the game. Well, needless to say, there was no one catch for 8 yards from Torrey Holt. He caught one ball, his foot was out of bounds, another one hit him off the chest, and I lost the game.
Oh.
Now, back then, instead of going into the championship bracket, you went into the consolation bracket. Okay? I finished second in the consolation bracket out of the 100 people that advanced. I would have finished third in the championship bracket. It cost me $27,500.
Oh.
Yep.
And you were not consoled.
All because of Torrey Holt.
Torrey Holt. And
Torrey Holt. God.
And Mark Bolger threw for 448 yards in that game, and Torrey Holt had 51 yards and 5 catches.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's wild. So I brought up the box score, Rob, that you're telling me about this game, and I'm looking at it right now. And obviously, you're right. Holt 5 for 51. Isaac Bruce, no problem there. 9 for 170. You would expect him to ball out, but Holt 5 for 51. Kevin Curtis had 6 for 67, and something called a Sean McDonald had 6 for 79 in that game. I mean,
that was a good player. Yeah,
dude, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I'm not
As you mentioned, Torrey Holt, we have a player here in Kentucky, Trevor Holt. I think Trevor's taking this year off from fantasy football. It's sort of a stress situation that is now just reacting over the fact that he lost the championship here in Kentucky by 2.38 points, and he had 4 receivers each and he had 4 passes that 2 receivers, if they had caught them, would have won. He had 2 Eagle receivers and 4 drops in the second half of it.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, Jesus.
By the way, in that game, Torrey Holt did not have a catch from the 6:45 mark of the third quarter till the end of the game. And again,
they were getting waxed. They were down by like 30.
Perfect scenario.
And stuff like when stuff like that happens to me, Rob, where it's just like it's just an unbelievable situation that plays out. I just say like it was never meant to be. Wash my hands of it, because that should never happen. But I'll tell you what should happen more often. Rob Tomasino on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour.
Guys, thank you so much.
Great job tonight. Thanks so much. Listen, good luck at Pros versus Joes in the main event this year. Hopefully, if you win the $1 million, that lets you forget about that nasty Torrey Holt game from 2004. Enjoy your weekend, man. This was a treat, man. Really appreciate you coming out.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Have a great night.
You do the same. Yeah. That is Rob Tomasino, 3-time FFPC Main Event League winner and Pros versus Joes drafter. Will he win the Pros versus Joes challenge this year? Will he win his league? Will he win overall? I don't know.
He'll be rookie free if he does.
He will be rookie free if he does. And then Rob will set the standard next year. You want to win Pros versus Joes, don't draft rookies.
Don't draft any rookies. And I mean, you talk about you just mentioned things that should not happen. There really shouldn't be baseball talk in the chat room.
Listen. I know that Adam brought it up. Nick Kurtz just crushing it tonight. The rookie from the A's. I couldn't help myself because now I got to tune in to it to find out what's going on with it.
Well, you do have a terrestrial radio show.
I do. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. I want to remind everybody, if you are looking for some action, go to the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship, KFFSC.com. We got main events going off both online and live in Louisville. There's still a couple of spots left in Cincinnati as well, but it's coming up fast. We're less than a month away from Cincinnati, actually not Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, and we're less than a month away from Louisville when we're drafting down in Kentucky. I'm very excited for that. Main events, the Sweet 16 Best Ball Championship filling up as well. A couple of spots left in the big paybacks in Louisville too. A lot of stuff going on right now, Ferrell.
Balky, we're getting close to sellout. There's some of our old friends that we haven't heard from, typically in late. People go on vacations, and it's. I've just become aware that they have relatives that get married and things like this during the summer, and I just really, I just want everybody to sort of tighten it up and not miss out because we are running out of some time slots. But we have a big online schedule. And people from around the country, people that cannot get here for our amazing weekend, August 22nd through 24th. Well, we'll make sure you don't miss this year completely, because I'm sure everyone is making plans for the FFPC there in the Paris Hotel and Casino. But we'd love to see you first here and second in Las Vegas. Balky, the excitement of joining you next week live for a show is also unprecedented.
Yeah, we're going to be doing the show live next week. To where, I don't know yet. I'm going to let you know as soon as I know. I'm still trying to hammer stuff out because I know a couple of the acts that you represent. I looked at the schedules, and one of them, I think, it's either Kristen or Katie. I can't remember which one. But they're going to be downtown at McFleshman's Brewing Company, literally 10 minutes after we go off the air. So I want to find a place close by to there so we can,
it's very thoughtful.
Get right over and check them out.
But whether I'm in the crowd or not, those girls will sound great.
They will.
They don't need me there.
So the other thing I want to bring up too, and you had texted me about this. I apologize, I didn't get back to you. The big playback play-in best ball draft.
Easy for you to say, Bob.
With the KFFSC, I drew the 4 spot. You said, why don't you make your pick live on the air tonight? And I will, and I might surprise some people with this pick here. 101 was Jamar Chase. The 102 was Bijan Robinson. The 103 is Justin Jefferson. This is non-tight end premium. So I'm going to go with another receiver here, Ferrell. I'm not going to take Gibbs. I'm not going to take Barkley. I am taking CeeDee Lamb. Just made the pick right now.
There you go.
And we'll see what happens there as I build my squad at the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. Ferrell, thank you so much, man. We will talk with you on Sunday for Pros versus Joes number 4.
I'll be looking forward to it, Balky. What time are we going to get started on Sunday?
That starts at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
That's an Sunday. Early one, Balky.
Early one, yes. Ready. All right, you're the man. Talking with you then.
See you, bro.
Later. That is Ferrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, hanging out with us tonight. Yeah, Pros versus Joes rolls on Sunday. That's when we will be live again. And I apologize. Ferrell, I'm going to bring you back right now. I screwed this up. It's 7 p.m. 7 p.m. my time. It is 8 p.m. Eastern.
8 p.m. Bucky. That's early.
Yeah, it is early, but it's not as early as 7. So there you go. 8 p.m. I'll see you then. Ferrell Elliott will be joining me at 8 o'clock for live pick-by-pick coverage this Sunday night of the Iron Maiden division of Pros versus Joes. The Joes include Brian Lindo and Jeff Cusmano, Albert and Kyle Leach, Petri and Larson, Brad Petri and Darren Larson will be drafting in there. Dennis and Steven Jones. Billy Van Ormer, our good buddy, is going to be drafting from the 9 spot there. And then another good buddy of ours, Vince Staffolino, drafting from the 11 hole. The pros include Sigmund Bloom from Football Guys, Mauricio Gutierrez from Estadio Fantasy, Josh Hayes from Rotoballer, Dan Williamson and Bradley Stalder from Player Profiler, the co-hosts of the Stack Hunters program. They will be drafting as pros. Mike Leone, from Establish the Run, and of course, Justin Boone from Yahoo. Those will be the 12 drafters this Sunday. Don't miss it at 8 p.m. Eastern time right here on the FFPC YouTube channel and the FFPC socials. I want to thank Rob Tomasino, Ferrell Elliott, the FFPC, Rob Bryson, of course, each and every one of you. In case you missed last night's Insider Access show this past Thursday on Better Sports Network and on the FFPC and BSN socials, Ryan Kramer from the Sports Gambling Podcast and the Vegas Sports and Information Network joined us. He's also drafting in the Pros versus Joes coming up this week. He and his co-host, Sean Green from the Sports Gambling Podcast, will be handling live FFPC draft coverage with Aiden LaCory and Dave Tripoli this Wednesday as well. So you're going to get live draft coverage from them. And then, of course, this Thursday night, we go live again on the Better Sports Network with live FFPC Best Ball Tournament coverage. Ferrell and I will be live next Friday covering a Big Gorilla draft, which you can register and sign up for now. If you're keeping track of this in your head and you're counting, you're like, wait a minute. That means there's Pros versus Joes Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Aiden, Terp, and the Sports Gambling Guys on Wednesday for a live draft. Balky's doing a best ball tournament draft on Thursday, and then Big Gorilla live draft coverage on Friday. Yeah, that's right. It's live draft coverage week. We're doing 6 days of live draft coverage every night except for Saturday. We will be covering a live draft, whether it be the Big Gorilla, whether it be best ball tournament, whether it be main event, whether it be Pros versus Joes. We're covering a different FFPC format every single night next week, except for Saturday. So check that out. It all begins Sunday, the FFPC live draft coverage week. on the FFPC YouTube channel. It's going to be awesome. The Big Gorilla Tournament, the main event, the FFPC Best Ball and Superflex Best Ball Tournament are ripe with entries available for you. Check that out. Remember, main event early draft slots that you got to get in by midnight Pacific time on Sunday night. So make sure your main event teams are squared away, and then you will get your early draft slot, or you'll get your draft slot for the main event early on August 3rd, well ahead of many of your competitors this year. Big Gorilla is crushing it right now. We got drafts going on. We got a midnight draft coming up in 45 minutes with spots still available in that. So make sure you're registering for that. And Dynasty Startups also available at myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which will be Sunday night at 8 p.m. for Pros versus Joes. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Really appreciate each and every one of you. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
I want to piggyback on that just to let everybody know that the midnight draft is now sold out. We filled that up tonight. So there are no more options for you tonight to draft in the Big Gorilla. However, you won't have to wait long. Get a good night's sleep tonight. Go to bed, because we got Big Gorilla drafts kicking off at 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning. You can draft at 11, 1, 4, 7, 8:30, 10, and midnight. That is all tomorrow for the Big Gorilla. Of course, main events going on tomorrow as well as the Best Ball Tournament. It is drafting season. This is our last show of July of 2025 for our Friday night edition, and you just don't have any excuses anymore. Adam Hahn pointed this out in the chat. Less than a week until we get real NFL preseason football going on. As Penny Lane from Almost Famous says, it's all happening, and it's all happening at the FFPC. Register now, myffpc.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. Really appreciate it.